Friday morning. Welcome back to Breakfast Television. Tammy Sutherland, Sid Sixero, Devo Brown here with you this morning. Let's get a little bit of an early entertainment update and very serious stuff in the world of Hollywood to start this morning. Danny Masterson, we know him from that 70s show. Ongoing court dates that he's been having due to charges of rape from 20 years ago. Kind of the height in the prime of his career with that 70s show. It was from 2003. He had 3 charges. Now, he was tried for this back in December. A mistrial was declared. He got retried and found guilty of 2 charges of rape on May 31st. This was the sentencing that happened yesterday. A jury of 7 women and 5 men found him guilty back on May 31st. The Superior Court judge sentenced Danny Masterson to 30 years to life in prison for the rape charges of 2 women 2 decades ago. There was victim impact statements. Again, this is tough to hear for a lot of people. I will give you that warning right now. One woman saying, when you raped me, you stole from me. That's what rape is. Theft of spirit. You are pathetic, disturbed, and completely violent. The world is better off with you in prison. A second victim saying, I knew he belonged behind bars for the safety of all the women he came into contact with. I'm so sorry, I'm so upset. I wish I reported him sooner to police. So Danny Masterson, he is probably going to appeal this. He waived his right to speak before he was sentenced, had no visible reaction after the decision, nor did the many family members sitting beside him. His wife, Bijou Phillips, who's also an actor, tearful earlier in the hearing, but no reaction once the sentence was handed down.
Yeah, major news yesterday on that front. So that's an update there. Thank you, Devo, for that. The other entertainment story from yesterday where we kind of went, whoa, although some people didn't go, whoa. Yeah. There was a lot of, I knew this, which I can't stand. If you knew it, then why didn't you report it? Shut up. But this one kind of really hit people too. Jimmy Fallon and The Tonight Show. Rolling Stone came out with an article. 16 staffers went on the record, 14 former and 2 current. And they said that their experience working on The Tonight Show was not great. There were good days with Jimmy and there were bad days with Jimmy, and the rest of your day would be completely affected by his mood. Staffers say the ugly environment starts with Fallon, who would have erratic behavior. It trickled down. He's had 9 showrunners / producers in 9 years. That is rare for a show at that level.
That should tell you everything you need to know.
That means things are no bueno. Also described as tense and pretty glum atmosphere. Some employees contemplated suicide. Some employees would cry in guest dressing rooms for hours because of some of the treatment. Jimmy Fallon reportedly on a Zoom call last night to his team apologized profusely. The wild part, one of the wildest parts to me, guys, is Rolling Stone also said in this article they contacted 80 people who were either on the staff or worked for Jimmy. Not one of them said it was a pleasant experience. Wow. Not one of them, which is rare when you go on background, and that's the term background, where you talk to people who've been part of the show a little bit. Not one of the 80 people said this was a good experience. Are you, like, the whispers have been out there for a while about Jimmy. Were you shocked by the story or not?
Not shocked, but I didn't know it was to that extent. It doesn't surprise me. When you watch back some of the interviews and things that happened on the show, even though they edit it as much as possible because it is pre-taped, you still see certain reactions and his actions. If you really, really watch somebody, you can see that. So there are certain things where, you know, when he's dealing with whatever celebrities interviewing, if it's not about him a little bit at times, he's very guarded and kind of upset about that. To further what you were saying about them contacting all of these former and no one wanted to go on the record saying something positive about him.
Outside of the 16.
Is what it was, yeah, outside of that. So those other 80 or whatever it was, 60 or 80. No one wanted to go and say, hey, I have something positive to say about him on the record. That is massive. Tam, that's very problematic.
It's problematic, and I was shocked. I didn't even know there were whispers about Jimmy Fallon. I had no idea, and I'll be one of those people that'll watch back those interviews now, and then I'll notice things, but other than that, watching it firsthand, I would just think, you know what, Jimmy Fallon is a happy-go-lucky guy. I am stunned by this, and then when you hear just the number, like the 80 people and nobody saying anything positive. Everyone saying that this was a negative experience. That and the 9 producers, 9 showrunners in 9 years. Imagine that you get this job of a lifetime, producing The Tonight Show, a legacy show, and you can barely stay there for a year because it's so bad.
One of the lines in the article was the showrunners, the producers just they couldn't tell Jimmy no. Like that was the type of environment that this Rolling Stone article put out there. A couple things. No one on background wanted to defend Jimmy. The only person who did was Jerry Seinfeld. There's a part in this article that cites an interview Jerry Seinfeld was doing with Jimmy Fallon, and it didn't make it to air. They cut it out of the broadcast, but Jimmy Fallon at one point brings over the cue card holder and starts to berate the person. And Jerry Seinfeld says, "You need to apologize to that person." And the way it was quoted in the article, it was awkward sauce. And they cut it. The fact that they cut it out of the broadcast tells you all you need to know. But Jerry Seinfeld said that's blown way out of proportion. He was quick on that statement yesterday, Jerry Seinfeld. The other aspect to it is I understand a lot of what I read in here, but I also understand that's a really high stress job. To be a late night show that wants to stay #1, there's going to be stresses with that. And there are some people that won't be able to handle that. I think we have to acknowledge that. That is not a small market show. With that said, I don't like a lot of what I read in this article. And the one really interesting thing I read, and I'm not saying this was the reason, but because of the writer's strike that's going on right now, Jimmy Fallon paid his writers and employees for 3 weeks and then stopped. Then this article comes out. I'm not saying there's a connection, but that timing to me is worth noting. Because this article hadn't been written last year, and wasn't written 2 years ago, and wasn't written 3 years ago. It's written now. And you have a lot of people on the record, enough, 16 is a lot of people on the record, to give this story. So just food for thought. But with that said, Jimmy Fallon has some work to do. This is not a good moment for him. Not a good moment for him.
But you do realize that of the 16, only 2 currently work there.
Correct.
So there's the other 14 who have already left, who are not getting paid already, you know, and we're willing to band together to speak out. You know, when things like this happen, a bunch of clips will come out and this and that. So one of the ones I saw was Steve Martin and Martin Short.
Saw that one.
Yeah, right? And they're on there, and Martin Short's like, "Man, you're good. You, out of all the late night hosts, you pretend to care the most." And he's like, "Your phoniness is unbelievably great."
To his face, he said.
To his face during the interview.
His face.
And he's just like, "Ha ha ha." But he has to laugh. Like, what are you going to say to that?
Steve Martin didn't move. Steve Martin was right next to him.
Yeah.
Didn't move.
Martin Short was doing it, and Steve Martin was just like.
That's worth retweeting. I'll throw that out later.
So when you have legends in the game kind of saying things like that to your face during an interview, which aired.
Who aren't afraid of you.
No.
Martin Short's
not
afraid of most
from
people.
you.
No.
Yeah. Also, new season only murders. I have no time because it's TIFF, but it's good. I saw the first episode.
All right, you gotta watch it.
Gotta watch it.
You gotta watch it. All right, to be continued on the Tonight Show front. Does Conan O'Brien have a way back onto the Tonight Show?
Oh, wow.
We'll find out.
Can you imagine?
We'll find out.
After all this time?
I was always a pro Conan guy. We'll find out where this goes. All right, coming up on BT, we're going to news. That's where we're going. Also, Canada's only outdoor automotive festival, Drive Fest, taking place this weekend. Coming up at 7:40, we check in with Steph if she's arrived back on set, because she's having a great time there. We'll tell you everything you need to know. You're watching BT. More after this.